Welcome back to another episode of Shut Up and Enjoy. Shut up that we are a week late on this and enjoy the rest of the episode. So, yes.
Yes, we are a week late, huh?
We are a week late. We don't talk about that. This week we are going to be going over the season finale and maybe some series generalizations and overviews and reflections of Star Wars The Acolyte, Season 1. A lot happened.
Yes, it did.
There were also some actors that came in that I was not expecting to see that I thoroughly enjoyed. So as we kick off most episodes, Donnie, you want to go through and give us that little recap?
That I will. Episode 8, The Acolyte. They did the thing. They said the thing.
Was that Leonardo DiCaprio? There we go.
Saul takes May to Brendok and sends their location to the Jedi. Excuse me. Osha has a vision of May and agrees to lead Chimera to her. A mysterious figure watches the pair depart. In the ruins of the witch's fortress, Osha confronts May as Saul and Chimera fight. May disarms Saul but chooses to let him live so he can confess his crime to the Jedi Council. Saul reveals that May and Osha are the same person, created through the virgins on Brendok, and admits to killing Anastasia. Osha angrily kills Saul using the Force, corrupting the Kyber crystal in his lightsaber, which turns from blue to red. She and May escape before Vernestra arrives with a group of Jedi and finds Saul's body. The sisters reconcile, and Osha agrees to train with Chimera. He uses the Force to wipe May's memory. On Coruscant, the Senate grows weary of Jedi secrets and launches an investigation into the Order. Vernestra blames the murders on Torben, Indara, Kalnaka, and the witches on Saul, despite sensing Chimera's involvement. Chimera was once her apprentice, and she wants an amnesiac May's help to find him. Vernestra reports to Jedi Master Yoda.
Let's take it back to the start of the episode where we pick up from right at the end of episode 6.
Yes.
Where episode 6 leaves off with Osha putting on Chimera's sensory deprivation helmet.
Mm-hmm.
This one, she takes it off. She saw a vision through the Force of who she originally thought was May going after Saul and killing him.
Yes.
And thought it was the future of someone else. Turned out it was her future.
How about that?
One thing I noticed with that scene, and I need to rewatch it, but it looked like there was a glint of orange in her eye.
Oh, for sure. When the helmet came off, there was definitely something there.
There was.
Could it have been orange? Could it have been red? Was it for the lightsaber? Not 100% sure.
Yeah.
One thing that we also noticed when she had the helmet on and was totally in tune with the Force or the thread, depending on which part of the religion we're talking about, right?
Yes.
It seemed as if she was taking control of Chimera, kind of like
the same way she tapped into that same.
Yeah. So that was interesting.
Night Sister magic.
Yes. The witch's magic.
Exactly right.
To take control of people. So that was interesting to see as well. And he had to actually fight through it in order to get that helmet off.
And was able to push through because he actually had formal training.
Yes.
I wonder if he is Emery, who was Vernestra's Padawan.
Mm.
And I'm thinking this now.
Okay.
Because, again, reading the High Republic books, Emery, I thought was killed on Starlight Beacon.
Mm-hmm.
But without spoiling the book, something I just read makes me think that he wasn't.
Okay.
But that would also explain that I was a Jedi a long, long time ago.
We did say that.
With the instance where Indara on Brandok said, with the hyperspace disaster 100 years ago, referencing the Legacy Run disaster and the whole war with the Nihil. So that timeline would track, and Vernestra flat out says, an old pupil of mine.
Yes.
Which. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
And then so after the scene with the mask and everything, they figure out that they need to go to Brandok to confront May and Saul.
Mm-hmm.
Back where it all began, the criminals return.
Come full circle.
Yes. So with that, they walk out at low tide to the ship. Sure. No. Give me 8 hours. I need to wait for the tide to go
wait.
Whatever. And then we have probably one of the biggest reveals that I actually had an audible "oh shit" while I was watching it.
I think we all did. Yeah.
Was not expecting it.
No.
Definitely happy for it. We have live action Darth Plagueis the Wise.
That we did. It was just a brief glimpse.
That's all we needed, though. That's all we needed, though. We didn't need any.
That's it.
We didn't need any words, any interaction.
Didn't need a full explanation or any of that stuff.
It was just chef's kiss.
Yes.
So what that implies for everything is Plagueis is moving something, theorizing that he might be trying to figure out what the Virgins is doing between Osha and May to then go for was even able to manipulate the midichlorians to sustain life, blah, 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 blah.
They both have high M counts. The same.
So I wonder if Chimere knows he's alive or if he's following May and Osha.
That is a great question. Interesting question.
Is Chimere actually his apprentice now? Which would throw the Plagueis book a little bit wonky because after Plagueis kills Tenebris, he then takes on Palpatine.
Straight away? For those of us that didn't know.
Pretty straight away, I believe.
Spoiler alert.
I forget how many years it was from when he killed Tenebris to Palpatine.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess with this timeline, it could be an attempted 10 to 15 years before.
Right. Because in this timeline, Palpatine isn't alive.
Correct. He's too. Yeah. It's too early for that.
Yeah.
And Plagueis finds him as like a teenager in high school or something. As he's masking as Higo Damask of the banking clan. So there's all of that lore and everything in there. But all of that was just brought in with one scene. So it makes me excited that now we're going to get more story told to us. And I think we're going to get more story told. Nothing's been confirmed yet for season 2.
Right.
But the way this left off, I think Disney would risk at least one more season with this.
I agree with that. Although nothing, we're a week since the finale, nothing has been announced on that front.
Correct.
But apparently there was a lot of viewers. The viewership was up for this program compared to some of the other Disney Plus programs. So perhaps there will be. One thing we can say is that now that this has been brought into live action, even if they don't do anything with a season 2 of The Acolyte, it's possible that it could go into something else, kind of like they're doing with the Mandoverse.
The Book of Chimere, the Book of Vegas, the Book of Osha.
It's possible, and we still have another show that's coming. I can't think of the name of it right now. I'm sure somebody will drop it down in the comments, but yeah. We're gonna have to go to the
brain. My brain just turned
it's just right there.
One thing to note also is now Osha's wearing all black.
Yes.
So the visuals on this of
they totally changed.
Light versus dark. They've completely swapped clothing. So I do like how the visual part of the storytelling was taken into consideration here. So right after that, we have a signature Star Wars Lucas screen wipe to
I've always loved it.
where we see Vernestra Rowe speaking to the one and only David Harewood, who plays Jean Jones in Supergirl, who is a phenomenal actor, and that is great. And I was like, sorry, the fucking who now? So he is playing a senator who is possibly has like the best quote to describe the Jedi from a realistic, non-force perspective that I know I'm going to butcher, so shut up and enjoy what you have. Where it's essentially like you think that you're all powerful and everything. You're going unchecked, unregulated, like thinking you can do whatever you want, while the rest of us are just going to blindly bow down and worship you. And Vernestra is essentially like, well, yeah, we are more powerful. It's like,
we know
whoa. And what I liked here is there was, I believe they actually used the word hubris in this episode, which is again calling back but forward to Luke when he was training Rey, saying the hubris of the Jedi consumed them, which allowed Palpatine to rise and destroy them with Order 66 after the Clone Wars.
Yep.
Which I like how they're doing. I know some people are saying, well, they're just making these shows to try to canonize everything and make like the cloning not shit and all of that stuff.
What is... I've never understood that argument. It's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with bringing it all together.
But Anakin must have also been on the light side when he killed all those younglings.
Yes,
because that kyber crystal wasn't... It's like... oh my god.
Although it is canon knowledge that you have to have direct access to the crystal in order to bleed it, which is why they specifically showed in this show that the hilt was broken so that you could actually see the crystal. It all works if you just take your time and understand what they're trying to show to you.
So Anakin didn't have a connection with his crystal?
Not directly, no.
But Osha never touched the crystal.
But she had access to it. She could see it. It was there.
She wasn't looking at it when it changed, though.
It was all about her feelings.
I'm playing troller's advocate here, by the way.
She poured her feelings, her deepest, darkest feelings into the crystal and bled it.
So killing younglings doesn't invoke those feelings.
Anakin was just,
He needed the Youngling Slayer 4000, and all he had was the Youngling Slayer 3000.
He needed something to do, He's like, listen, I got something to do. All right, I'm coming in. Master Skywalker. There's too many. Poor kid.
Oh my god. I will say up until I saw Vernestra say, like, actually sense Khmer. And go back and forth and have more actual dialogue. Part of me wondered if Khmer as a whole was just a force projection by Plagueis. The same way Luke did that in episode 8.
I guess the only difference would be he couldn't have been a projection because he was
so some of that, but the way that Plagueis was like eyeing them, like a little bit of that, maybe.
It needed to have that creep in and have it as a thought.
Unless Plagueis is Vernestra's apprentice. He's not. Shut up. Yes. So then after that whole tit for tat between Vernestra and Senator Jean Jones, we get to Brandok we get to like the atmosphere orbit of Brandok, because then they go back and forth a little Spacey Who battle, flying through the rings, and then
that was actually a really good.
That was really cool.
Really good to have that
good CGI on
chase
that
scene.
Yeah. And then
really
our favorite tracker comes through and is like, "I'm not dying for your bitch ass," and like pulls the plug
you gotta
out.
chill.
Chill. You ain't the only life form on this bitch. So we get a crash landing on Brandok. Go to the temple. And kind of just all hell starts breaking loose.
It got wild.
Yeah. It's pretty much just action from then on out. We get Soul coming back to the bridge where he had to try to hold May and Osha, where he made that choice. We see later on how May survived and escaped, very similar to Luke in Bespin.
Yes. Even the imagery of that tunnel was almost exactly the same.
Yes. So don't give me any of those like, but how could you have survived that fall? How did Luke survive that fall?
Was a plan.
Well, the writing sucks. I want to go against the power. Like, again, if you're going to complain about this shit, hold it up against all of the movies. This isn't new. But I digress. So once we get in there and Soul's continuing to search for Pamir and Osha, he, in fact, triggers another hallway scene. Star Wars loves them some hallway scenes.
They love the hallway scenes.
And we love them too. We love watching them too. Yeah. Between Anakin and Obi, between Vader and Rogue, between Daredevil and the bad guys. Forgetting who they are. The Hand, thank you. And now we have this one between Kamir and Soul. The hallway scene choreography is compact. It is action-packed. It is just...
It gets a little chaotic because you're in that tight, confined space there, so you can't really do your full moves, and, you know...
Then the lightsabers are still moving in every direction because they're cutting through the walls and everything. It's just...
Again.
Love that. Chef's kiss.
Had some nice wire work on that as well.
I was about to say the wire work through there, and Soul like actually using the Force, jumping back, stabilizing himself. Kind of a callback almost to episode 1, when Indar's jumping and flipping over, and May's doing the same thing. I think it was used very effectively in this series, without overdoing it, but still reminded us that the Jedi are at their peak. They are using the Force differently than post Order 66 and all of that stuff. One of my favorite moves is when Kamir throws the lightsaber and they're both coming back thinking, I got this fucker. And Soul actually puts his lightsaber away to be able to fully charge up and force push the two lightsabers back, as well as Kamir back into the wall. That just shows how adept and well-versed Soul is as a knight to be able to... I mean, you got lightsabers coming at me. I'm not putting mine away.
Yeah, like, you got lightsabers coming and a dude coming for you. Who's already you've already witnessed him handle multiple Jedi
and gets it like quickly too. Make quick work out of that, and does almost the whole like afterwards does the whole almost like Cobra Kai, like Crouching Tiger, like double kick back off of him, like but with a hint of Force. So that just that whole choreography and fight scene was really phenomenal. It kept tight angles, making us feel like we were actually a part of it and witnessing it. Again, similar to the Brandok flashback, where you see Corbin with the bows and arrows, you see Kalnaka attacking, very tight camera angles. That's another thing the show's done all throughout the season, from the beginning, where it was shooting from the hip up at the lightsaber, made you really feel immersed, and it was almost a bit of like a psychological component to it.
It put you right in the action. And it was also cool that it was interspersed. Their fight was interspersed between May and Osha's fight in their old bedroom.
One of my favorite scenes from that is when they kick up and their legs flash, and then it immediately kicks over to the lightsabers crossing. That was just... Yeah.
Very, very well done.
Yes.
Very well done.
So while May and Osha are fighting and Sol and Kamir are fighting, you really almost see May and Osha's personalities completely flip. You see May of, I wanted you, I was trying to be with you, keep you here. Like, I wanted to not go down the way that I went down. And Osha was like, no, that's not what happened. Like, dealing in very still contradictory points of view, but that was the first time, and I thought to myself, Osha's just dealing in absolutes.
As a Sith does.
So from there, I was like, oh fuck, they're gonna crisscross this dyad. Sorry, not dyad. I said the word.
We'll strike that.
Yeah, we'll fix that in post. But seeing them right there in that scene where everything began, having that complete 180 on both of the characters, I thought was very, very cool. Right after that, we get May getting the full confession out of Sol of what he did. Kamir trying to get May to strike Sol down, but her wanting him to face justice, face the Jedi, face the Republic, face the galaxy for what they did, and to show that, again, pulling like an Iron Man 2, I don't need to kill you, but if you can make a god bleed, people will stop believing in the god. Like,
that's right.
Where Kamir's like, what the fuck? And so then Osha comes in and is like, is it true? It's like, yes, it was. I confess, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then she just takes my breath away.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. I will say the acting on that could have been a little better. It was a little weird seeing like where she was standing and just kind of like her hand down at her side. Like, first time you're using the Force in that powerful of a way, I would go more out direct than like kind of down to the side, like knocking your wrist up a little bit.
I think that was more for dramatic purposes, because at that point when he first started choking, we the viewer didn't know why he was choking, who was doing it. Was it May? Was it Kamir? Was it the Jedi who we just saw pull up?
Yeah.
Although they didn't quite put. I don't know where the hell they parked. They had F-lot parking. They were not close at all.
F-lot. H for hubris. Yes, there was that bit, but once we saw it, it took her a while to actually bring the hand up. It's like, weird, I know it's a one-off thing. I have them with the prequels too, like some Obi-Wan delivery lines in the prequels. It just, to this day, it doesn't, 20 years later, it still doesn't fit with me well.
That's all right. That's all right.
But then, so once Osha kills Sol, her master, her rescuer, the one who wanted to give her the life she wanted, we see for the first time in live action again. There were a lot of first time live actions in this one. We see the bleeding of a kyber crystal. We saw it starting. We saw it moving a little bit. And then once she ignited that and you saw the red and the blue almost fighting, you could still see the inner conflict. And what I also liked was when it was an up close one, you saw it have a little edge to it because the hilt was damaged.
Yeah.
So I liked that effect, and it wasn't just a straight out blade. Again, Jedi, tell them the party starts at 3 when it really starts at 5. Because
Lord have mercy.
Fat lot of fucking use some shit that once.
It was also weird. Again, they brought 12 in so immediately when you see that, you think again, okay, so we're gonna have some red shirts. It's gonna be another big battle, but none of that happened. They all came. They all saw Soul laid out on the ground.
Yeah.
And okay, let's go try and find May and Osha at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little funky. That was a little weird. Why we needed so many? We could have just had the little
Vernestra and what's his face.
Yeah. And of course the tracker who ended up finding them anyway. But that was a little weird.
Basil.
Why they had so many Jedi coming there for essentially nothing.
Yeah.
And again, that's more witnesses. That's more.
And especially the way that went down, where Vernestra sees them, scatters all of them.
Yeah.
Hire burns Soul, and then expects nobody to say anything.
Yeah. So
she's just fucking weird at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
the whole thing was weird. Gather a bunch of Jedi, but do it so that you don't attract too much attention.
Gather as many knights as
you get. 15 of them.
Someone's gonna say something.
Yeah. Where are we going?
We're going to fucking what?
We're doing who?
We're going to Virgins in the Force.
So it's just a little bit weird there.
But I think it's supposed to be like that, where it's showing the rifts of the Jedi, and we don't know Vernestra's whole angle.
Right. And it's key. I think.
And it could have also been that when she sensed Khmer, she deliberately sent the other Jedi out. Then, because she was also there.
I think they've already gone it. Oh, no. As soon as she got off the ship.
Off the ship. And sent them away because she also knew, she was also on Kofar and saw the massacre there with Yord and Jeki and all of those people. So it could have almost been like, if this is going to go down again, I don't want them here. Maybe I'm theorizing.
Yeah, we're all over the place now because we didn't get much. We didn't get any.
I have nothing.
We don't know why any of that happened.
Yeah, I have nothing concrete to back that up, except maybe she's not as twisted in Delulu as possible.
Maybe.
Because then after she bends over and whispers, "I'm sorry, old friend," to Soul. She senses that Khmer's up in the catwalk.
Yeah. Hanging out in the rafters like Sting.
Like Hawkeye. Yeah. That was... So there's something to be investigated there.
Yeah. And again, that's more information or more opportunities that will lead into another season.
Yes. And then...
Or Book of Vernestra.
Book of Roe. Not to be confused with the Nihil Markion Roe. So after that, Osha and May go back to the Bunta tree, where Soul first saw them, where they were playing with the butterflies and everything. Khmer pulls out dark side mind trick and wipes their minds.
Well, wipes one mind.
Wipes May's mind, which makes sense because the Sith are still in secret. They're not at last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
Right.
So having that ability to quickly wipe the mind of a potential Force user who can identify them and tie them as Sith. Again, not that Khmer has called himself a Sith. Just it makes sense canonically and brings everything back in. In terms of that Sith continuity stuff, I saw something last night, I can't remember if I sent it to you, where there's a theory that they knew about it and they knew about the Virgins because in episode 1, Mace looks over at Yoda of not again. And the implied Lucas had it set up of that look is them being they're fucking full of horse shit, looking at Yoda, and then Lucas tells Filoni, tells this director of like, here's what's going on, which then holds Ki-Adi-Mundi not in contempt of canon, but all of that stuff, which I thought was really cool. I think that's a little between the lines and splitting hairs.
Yeah,
it's fun to think about.
Yeah.
So at the end, once everything is kind of said and done, May's mind is wiped. Sol's dead. Yord's dead. Jackie's dead. May's taken prisoner. Doesn't remember jack bit of fuck all.
She's back to an 8-year-old at this point.
So naturally, Vernestra's going to question her because
that's as you do.
Osha agrees to go and train with Khmer and goes back to
still unknown planet.
Yeah, planet. And the last scene we see with them is the two of them staring off into a sunset, which is very symbolic in the Star Wars realm.
Which is a Star Wars thing.
After all of the heavier toned movies, we see that symbolism. After Revenge of the Sith, we see it. After the Clone War, it's not the last scene in the Clone Wars because the last scene is them getting married. But we see it at dusk. The clones boarding the Venator ships on Coruscant. It's done. Like after Episode 5, there's they're looking out. Leia and Luke are looking out onto another galaxy within a galaxy. Never really understood that choice. Yeah, you want to pick something apart? Let's go with that.
Next time.
But Empire is the greatest film of all time. I'm gonna get fucking canceled from the fandom for that.
That's okay.
So it matches that whole thread of everything. And then I can't remember which one at the end of the sequels did that. I don't think 8 did it. After
9.
Or Luke, when he died, it was at dusk and he faded away.
Yep. But 9, when after Rey buried the lightsabers,
it's at that closure point, very heavy, versus the celebratory ones. After 4, they're in the parade. After 1, they're in the parade. Like you had all of those like very contradictory or just opposite, not contradictory endings. Then we go to the Senate hearing with. Was that the Chancellor?
Unsure.
That wasn't a Bothan. It was... I can't remember the species. But you see them trying to then press back on the Jedi. You need oversight. So you start to see the Jedi go from their own religious organization to becoming more integral into the politics of the galaxy, into the being controlled by the Senate, where we then see them become the generals and we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers. The fuck you are. And we really start to see those seeds being sown. I wish they did it a little more subtly. I don't know how they would have done it. But I don't want them to be too like looking down the camera. Do you see how they went bad? Do you see how they lost their like? I don't want it to be so in your face. I want them to do more seed planting and letting that grow throughout the rest of this series if there's a season 2.
The only pushback you get on that is we already know how it ends up. So how much seed planting can you do?
We do, and to that I would say make it in-world seed planting, not for viewership.
Gotcha.
Whereas, and it could be because we know where it's going, that in-world seed planting seemed more on the nose. But it just seems so much like, of course the Jedi are going to distrust the Republic. There's 100 years before Episode 1. They're already getting pushed back and losing their ability to be Jedi. Like, it's almost like a slow burn, and then we're gonna crank the heat up to 100, then back down to 20. Like it's low and slow. Good ribs take time. Good brisket takes time.
I think that goes into one of the other things that we've talked about before, as far as it being not only short seasons with 8 episodes, but short episodes within those seasons. So a lot of things that could be breadcrumb, that could be planted seeds, they have to be half-grown trees when they plant them, because they just don't have the time to develop.
Yes.
And I mean, I'll never understand it because it's streaming, so you're not beholden to networks and commercials and shit like that. Yeah. But I'm not one of the bean counters. I don't know all the ins and outs of why Hollywood does what it does.
But I don't think Hollywood knows at this point.
That's a valid point.
So, bringing this full circle, overall perceptions of the season.
The entire season?
Yes.
I think we're gonna. Do we have what we're ranking it out of?
No, just like overall thoughts from start to finish. Like
overall thoughts on the season. So, I enjoyed the series.
Mm-hmm.
We had our issues with episode 3. We had kind of sort of some issues with 7. I think, at least I did. So the flashbacks that we talked about. Mm-hmm. Which we had issues with. We had issues, which I just talked about, with it being so damn short. We need longer things. But at the same time, I think the things that we got outweighed that. We got some awesome lightsaber battles. We got some fighting. We got some cameos. That unexpected cameos. Things that you go in not looking for and you get.
A surprise, to be sure, but not unwelcome.
Right. So
we had awesome things canonized.
Yes, had some things canonized, which is good. So my overall thoughts are this series worked for the most part, and I'm actually hoping that there is more to it, be it a season 2 or be it another series in this High Republic. It's worth exploring. Mm-hmm. For those of us that haven't read any of the books or comics or any of the other stuff and don't know much about the High Republic, this was a good introduction into it. Now you kind of want to go back and see, okay, what was this explosion that happened 100 years ago that now this planet shouldn't have life, but it does have life. So what happened there? You know? And I think that's good start for this series and for where we're going in the High Republic.
Yes, I completely agree. Episode 3 was rough.
It was rough. It was brutal.
I liked episode 7 a lot more than I liked episode 3 in terms of flashback episodes. I think the pacing was a little weird in some parts.
Oh, yes, agreed.
I think we got exposition where we didn't need to and didn't get it where we did need it.
Yes.
But all in all, I agree. I liked the series. I enjoyed it. I'm not watching Star Wars for a high philosophic 45 minutes on shows or 2 hours for movies, like a high philosophic brain functioning. That being said, it is a universe in which you can debate the philosophy of the universe and some actions, which is one thing I really like about it, where you don't need to be referencing the specific canon to have a debate on if something's light or dark or where this mythology fits in and all that stuff, which is one that, again, I really like that about the Star Wars universe. All in all, yeah, I want a season 2. I'm hoping for it. I want it. I will watch the absolute shit out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I would give this, the entire season, probably a solid 8 half-blood kyber crystals. That doesn't mean a 4 out of 10. I'm realizing. Yes. That is 8 out of 10. I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
I agree totally. 8 out of 10 on the full season.
Yes. Yeah, obviously, what do you guys think about it? I know there's going to be some heat, but as usual, let the hate flow through you. It only strengthens us, and go fuck yourself. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into our review series of The Acolyte. We will be back this weekend, hopefully, if we have 2 hours to ourselves, with a Deadpool and Wolverine. All of the reviews I'm already seeing are just like grown men are walking out of the theater crying, which, full disclosure, perfectly normal for a grown man to cry. We love emotional vulnerability, deconstruct toxic masculinity.
Totally fine.
But also, I might get wrecked. So yes, be on the lookout for that. We also got a trailer review coming.
Yes.
Tonight, tomorrow, I don't know, maybe soonish.
Yeah.
If there's anything you guys want to see us review, let us know. Text us, comment on the stuff, on the things, and let us know. But again, once again, thank you so much for joining us in our series review of The Acolyte, and we will follow up next time on whatever's new.
Yeah. Good night.